What do you think happens when the WWE starts losing everything that once made it great? When its biggest stars fade away due to age, death, or obscurity, and no new stars are successfully built to carry the torch forward? You get the creative drought we experienced from 2017 to 2022. Historically, the WWE has always found a way to create the next big thing in wrestling. From Bruno Sammartino to Bob Backlund, to Hulk Hogan, to the Ultimate Warrior, all the way to Cody Rhodes today. And in between that shuffle, we have one of the most bizarre creations of Vince McMahon's career, Roman Reigns. Bizarre because the next guy has always been able to naturalize into the hearts of the masses and become the top guy. Roman Reigns, on the other hand, had the complete opposite, ticking all the objective boxes as to what a main eventer should look like and behave like. Roman Reigns simply had it all, just not the natural acclamation of the fans. So when a brute force insertion of a new talent squeezed itself into a slot where still many of the top names are present, obviously was going to have massive pushback. From winning the Royal Rumble with just a little help from his cousin The Rock, thanks to WWE Creative for forcing an underdog storyline on a man who looked anything but like the underdog, to defeating The Undertaker in a non-title WrestleMania main event, which was one of the most baffling, disrespectful booking decisions in history, Roman Reigns' journey has been a roller coaster. The Roman Reigns experiment was slow, painful, yet undeniably necessary in WWE's evolution. But somewhere along the way, things went off the rails. The man Vince McMahon personally handpicked as the next top star, the one who finally turned heel during the lockdown era and delivered one of the most memorable cinematic storylines in wrestling history, is now sidelined for 2 years straight and also stripped from his WWE Undisputed Championship. So what exactly happened between Roman Reigns and WWE's new management after Vince's departure? Why was his request to reclaim the top spot ignored? Was it merely a coincidence that Cody Rhodes suddenly lost the title weeks before the Royal Rumble so that Roman Reigns couldn't get the match he wanted? So how did a performer who was once considered to be a backstage favorite become relegated to playing a secondary role in the company that he is meant to be leading in? In this documentary, we will be taking a deep dive into the secret war between Roman Reigns and Triple H backstage. And this beef is genuinely bigger and more sinister than you could imagine. And as always, welcome back everybody to a Heels Advocate original presentation. During Vince McMahon's exit from the WWE, he made sure to position a new top babyface in the mix. Because Roman Reigns had successfully evolved into an all-time dominant heel, many tried to knock the tribal chief off of the #1 spot, and many failed. From legends like Edge to rising new stars like LA Knight, no one could truly touch him. Roman had built such an elite system around himself that taking the titles away from the bloodline felt nearly as impossible as ending The Undertaker's undefeated streak at WrestleMania. At WrestleMania, Undertaker had an aura of invincibility around him. Whoever stood across from him simply was only the next victim. But that feeling existed only once a year, on the biggest stages of them all. When Roman Reigns turned heel and built his system around his own family, that same level of invincibility stopped being an annual spectacle and became a monthly occurrence. His dominance became routine, and his stock rose higher than anybody else in the company. This was also the lockdown era, and strangely, Roman Reigns benefited the most from the absence of fans. The empty arenas made WWE feel like a weekly drama series, perfectly suited for the transformation of the big dog into the cold-blooded head of the table. A man who was willing to humiliate and brutalize even his own family until they acknowledged him as their leader, by force. Step by step, Vince McMahon had created the perfect heel champion, leading to a historic title reign that stretched close to 4 years while Roman Reigns dismantled everyone in his path. With fewer and fewer challenges left, the Tribal Chief's appearances began to decrease, leaving only one question: when would it end? And who would be the one to end it? That is when Vince McMahon reached out to a familiar name, Cody Rhodes. who had once left the WWE because he was stuck as a jobber in the role of Stardust. In a rare move, Vince McMahon personally flew to Cody Rhodes' home to discuss his return to the WWE. This was the perfect decision. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and Cody had reinvented himself as the ultimate indie darling, even helping create the competition for the WWE, AEW. He even had taken clear shots at Triple H during his entrance at Double or Nothing and built a reputation far beyond what he once had in WWE. To say Cody Rhodes' return would set the WWE on fire would be an understatement. When he made his grandiose return at WrestleMania against Seth Rollins, it felt like the WWE had found its biggest babyface since Daniel Bryan's rise at WrestleMania 30. And when Cody Rhodes showed up to the Hell in a Cell match to finish his feud with Rollins despite having a torn pectoral muscle, it became the most defining moment of his babyface run. After defeating Rollins and recovering from his injury, the stage was set for the ultimate showdown, the ultimate babyface versus the ultimate heel, and it was going down at WrestleMania 39. On that night, even me, as a lapsed fan who had drifted away from the WWE after 2017 and only checked in for the occasional WrestleMania, came fully back invested for one reason: to see whether or not Roman Reigns' historic title run would finally come to an end. But that seemed to be a very hard task for Cody Rhodes because of Roman Reigns' system. His system made it so that any of his title matches had to be operated under bloodline rules, which means no disqualifications, no countouts, no consequences, allowing for his family members to be able to step in whenever things went wrong. And that would come in quite handy. In the closing moments of the match, just like so many times before during his reign, it looked like it was a certainty that Roman Reigns was about to lose. Cody Rhodes set him up for the final crossroads. The crowd could feel it, and then, out of nowhere, Solo Sikoa slid into the frame and spiked Cody Rhodes. Once again, Roman Reigns cheated to retain the World Championship. He capitalized instantly on the moment, hits the spear, and secured the pinfall to retain his title. The Tribal Chief lived to see another day. But this victory felt different from the others, because it was pretty obvious that Cody Rhodes wasn't going to be going away that easily. But amidst all of this, before WrestleMania 39 took place, The Rock made a special appearance on the Pat McAfee show and revealed that a return match against Roman Reigns had been planned for that night but ultimately fell through. That revelation immediately sparked fan interest and demanded to see Rock vs Roman at WrestleMania 40. The match everyone wanted seemed inevitable, or so it seemed. In the fallout of WrestleMania 39, Vince McMahon was shockingly forced out of the WWE due to legal issues that rocked the company. It was also exactly Vince McMahon's plan to do Rock vs Roman at 39, and when that didn't happen, you would only assume that Triple H would carry the torch forward for the following year's Mania. But he didn't, and this is where the slow, methodical dismantling of Vince McMahon's final great project truly began. With Triple H now in charge, WWE fans were excited about what the future might look like. The growing belief that Vince McMahon had started to lose his touch, whether or not that was true, was debatable, but the perception was real. Triple H became the new hero. What many WWE fans didn't realize was that the long-time standing tension between The Rock and Triple H, dating back to the early days of their careers, was still a real thing. Back to a time when everything was filled with backstage politics and toxic competitiveness, where Triple H, backed by the Clique, allegedly maneuvered to push The Rock down the card. He saw Rock's immense potential and at the time tried to stifle it. And over the years, as The Rock left for Hollywood, Triple H steadily gained more power in the WWE. Then came the shock. The Rock returned not as a wrestler, but as a member of the board of directors for TKO, WWE's parent company, Suddenly, The Rock wasn't someone Triple H could politically outmaneuver. He was someone Triple H now had to answer to. That had to create serious internal tension for Triple H. The company that Triple H had worked for his entire career to help run was now even bigger than ever before. But because Vince McMahon sold the company to TKO, the power that Triple H had was still limited. One area where he still held significant control was WWE Creative, in his role as Chief Content Officer, the top position that arguably matters the most to the fans. But that is exactly when the shift began, from what Vince McMahon liked to what Triple H liked. Under Vince McMahon, Roman Reigns' part-time schedule as champion worked because by that point, it had run its course, and it seemed that Triple H was determined to end the era of a champion who rarely appeared. First, he had to remove the biggest obstacle in the way, Rock versus Roman Reigns. In a very sneaky way, Triple H carefully planted the seeds to keep Cody Rhodes hot by immediately placing him into a feud with Brock Lesnar on the Raw after WrestleMania 39. At that time, this felt questionable. It not only disrupted the natural momentum of Cody Rhodes' story, but it also didn't make any sense. They could have easily built Cody's path back to Roman Reigns all the way leading into SummerSlam, where he could finally win back the World Championship. But instead, the story was stretched all the way into next year's Royal Rumble to ensure that Cody Rhodes maintained maximum fan support. Because Triple H knew that The Rock would come back and try and secure his match against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. And so it happened. January 2024 arrives and The Rock makes his appearance to set up the long-awaited match with Roman Reigns to determine the true head of the table. The internet exploded. Views, likes, engagement, everything was off the charts and fans were absolutely behind it. And so if that is the case, why would Triple H allow Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble again? It could have easily been CM Punk this time around, giving Cody Rhodes a clean reason to step aside and clear the path for Roman and Rock. The answer seems pretty clear to me. Triple H wanted to throw a wrench into the plan. He wanted to end Roman Reigns' title run by force and remove him from the top spot for good. And if that meant derailing Rock's main event in the process, then hey, that might have just been an added bonus for the cerebral assassin. The Royal Rumble comes around and Cody Rhodes wins it again. And in the moments after his victory, Triple H reportedly instructs him in gorilla position to point directly at Roman Reigns after the match, leaving no question as to who Roman will be facing at WrestleMania. In that exact moment, as Cody points towards him, Roman's face shows genuine frustration. He knows that a WrestleMania main event with The Rock would be the biggest match of his career, elevating everything to another level. Yet once again, he's staring at Cody as his next challenger and knows that defeat is looming. If there is one thing wrestling fans love, it's rebelling against the very system that brought them in. Triple H understands this better than anybody else, as during the infamous curtain call moment at Madison Square Garden, where breaking the fourth wall turned into him becoming a folklore legend, he knew exactly what to do to captivate the hardcore fan. Knowing this instinct, Triple H perfectly positioned the indie darling underdog Cody Rhodes in a spot where he could bulldoze his way past The Rock's natural babyface popularity. By this point, The Rock likely already spoken to Vince McMahon about being a part of WrestleMania 40 and secured his place in the lead up to that event. But obviously Vince McMahon was gone and Triple H now controlled creative. And The Rock is a very busy man with Hollywood, so getting a commitment like this for WrestleMania is massive and you may not get this opportunity ever again. Now, the burden fell on The Rock to convince the board of directors to push for Rock vs Roman as the main event, but that was easier said than done. As we all remember, The Rock was placed in a no-win situation. Even though fans were really initially excited about the match with Roman before the Royal Rumble happened, the sentiment had quietly shifted overnight. Triple H's plan worked. The Rock began to look like the man stealing the underdog's moment. And so the segment that followed this was a disaster. Years of goodwill seemed to vanish overnight as The Rock suddenly became the villain in the eyes of the fans. Just days after Cody Rhodes had pointed at Roman Reigns, he was now saying he wouldn't challenge Roman at WrestleMania and instead would step aside and go after Seth Rollins again for his secondary title. This was just completely going to blow up in The Rock's face. But looking back at it now, it almost feels masterful how Triple H set the stage for The Rock to fail while simultaneously putting Roman Reigns in an even worse position. 2 birds, 1 stone. A move that is worthy for a man who calls himself The Game. Fans rallied behind Cody in unison as the "We Want Cody" hashtag went viral, leading into an unprecedented hijacking of the storyline.
This right here is...
The Rock, already deeply committed to WrestleMania 40, had no choice but to pivot and make the most out of the situation. Fortunately, WrestleMania had become a 2-night ordeal, giving him room to adapt. That's when The Rock made a career-defining shift and introduced the final boss. An authority figure unlike anything WWE had seen before. He wasn't just a character inside the WWE, he was also a TKO board member. Even in storyline terms, not even Vince McMahon had ever held that kind of power before. And as the final boss, The Rock made Cody Rhodes his primary target, attacking him week after week and transitioning what otherwise would have been a dull WrestleMania season into something completely unforgettable.
Look at your son, Mama loves you. It didn't have to be this way, but now, this is the only way. Look at your son.
Bringing The Rock into the bloodline and having him acknowledge Roman Reigns as the tribal chief.
I acknowledge you as my tribal chief.
The story suddenly felt worthy of crowning a new face of the company, because without The Rock in the build-up, Roman Reigns' title loss would have felt anticlimactic. Imagine Triple H stretching an entire story for a year straight, only for Cody Rhodes to win the Royal Rumble again and predictably win the rematch. Fans would have even turned on this decision back then. Instead, Triple H created the perfect stage for Cody Rhodes to dethrone Roman. Night 1 featured The Rock, returning to action after more than a decade, helping Roman secure a victory that set up Night 2 under Bloodline rules, heavily favoring Roman Reigns' chances to retain. It also became the perfect playground for shocking returns, and that is exactly what happened. John Cena and The Undertaker came out to aid Cody. Already massively over, Cody now received the ultimate rub from 2 legends and finally finished his story. If anything, this was a statement to how brilliantly Roman Reigns played his role as the heel, allowing Cody Rhodes to be elevated in such a legendary way. But after such a historic defeat and an all-time title run, it made sense for the tribal chief to step away and regroup. In his absence, Solo Sikoa became the de facto tribal chief, the family's enforcer whose sole job had always been to ensure Roman Reigns fulfilled his role as the leader, and now without Roman, there was no tribal chief. This shift wasn't driven by Solo's ambition, but by circumstance. Solo didn't want to be the tribal chief, he had to become it. At SummerSlam 2024, Solo Sikoa earned himself a title shot against Cody Rhodes to reclaim the WWE Championship for the Bloodline. In the closing moments, Triple H booked Roman Reigns to return and attack his cousin, furious that Solo Sikoa had taken the Ula Fala without tribal combat. It was a compelling story, but it also served as another way to keep Roman away from the title picture. By redirecting Roman Reigns' focus to Solo, the tension between Roman and Cody was diluted, reducing the urgency for a rematch. Then Triple H booked Roman and Cody to team up against Solo and the Rogue Bloodline. With Jimmy Uso returning to assist Roman in the closing moments, Roman was able to spear and secure the victory. After the match, the fake Bloodline went out and attacked Cody Rhodes. In a moment of hesitation, Jimmy Uso was able to convince Roman Reigns to come in and aid Cody out. However, that right there would have been the perfect moment for Roman Reigns' character to re-establish himself as a heel opposite to Cody Rhodes' babyface, to remind fans that their rivalry still existed. Instead, Triple H had Roman re-enter the ring and save Cody, confirming a positive relationship between them and removing any immediate reason for Roman to go after the title again. But it didn't even stop there. Triple H then booked The Rock to return with a cryptic message, seemingly having Rock suddenly disapprove of Roman's actions, the dynamic around Roman fractured even more, because not only Solo Sikoa had turned against him, now it even looked like The Rock was. Think about it. Heading into WrestleMania 40, Roman had everything. 2 championships, the Bloodline, and The Rock by his side, making everything stronger than ever before. Heading into WrestleMania 41, he had nothing. No Rock, no titles, no Bloodline. And by helping Cody out, he was effectively pushed into a babyface role. This is a level of character dismantling that felt almost surgical. "2025 kicked off the Netflix era. The moment WWE was supposed to enter a new, bold, and epic chapter. The Rock was understandably frustrated with how Triple H's booking had positioned both his character and Roman's. WrestleMania 40 was the only time he had managed to free up his schedule to fully commit to wrestling again, and once that window had passed, he had other obligations to return to. Triple H knew this, yet still chose The Rock to appear at Bad Blood and draw a line between himself and Roman Reigns. The Rock could exactly see where things were heading, which was nowhere. So when Raw on Netflix premiered, he showed up as Dwayne Johnson, not the final boss. In doing so, he completely erased the tension with both Cody and Roman Reigns, and quietly exited the situation for good, killing any speculation of Rock versus Roman for the foreseeable future. And on that night, Roman Reigns was able to defeat Solo Sikoa and become once again the undisputed tribal chief of the Bloodline. After the victory, The Rock came out and completely buried any further speculation by putting the Ulafala around his shoulders. This left Roman Reigns in a terrible spot, and it was all a result of Triple H's decisions. Had Triple H respected the Rock and Roman match, he wouldn't have needed to stall Cody Rhodes for an entire year, let alone have him win the Royal Rumble again. With 2025 framed around John Cena's retirement tour, the question whether or not he could become the record-breaking 17-time world champion was the dominant storyline of the year. Roman Reigns was completely removed from the undisputed title picture, and Night 2 became all about John Cena. To add insult to injury for Roman Reigns, The Rock was now involved with helping him turn heel, completely overshadowing anything Roman Reigns could have done that year. And so Triple H quietly removed him into the background. That is why in the Royal Rumble, Roman was attacked by Seth Rollins and was taken out of contention. They needed to keep Roman away from the big picture and stall him. Ironically, Jey Uso was the one who won the Royal Rumble and was clearly positioned to main event Night 1, as the announcers emphasized this when he pointed at the WrestleMania sign. Then came the sudden change. The Night 1 main event was taken away from Jey, disrespecting both his Rumble win and his place on the card. At the same time, Roman Reigns was placed in the pseudo main event slot that kind of felt like a cover-up rather than a plan. It was so obvious that Triple H didn't initially plan this, highlighted by the awkward triple threat match centered around Paul Heyman's loyalty. The systematic push into obscurity was now in full effect. Roman left WrestleMania with yet another loss that meant nothing. After a long absence, Triple H brought Roman back to open up Night 1 of SummerSlam in a tag match. A tag match. There were so many issues with this. Roman being in that position, Jey getting the pin instead of him, made Roman look even more weak, and the complete halt of momentum for the rising faction of the Vision made it so that nobody came out of this looking any better. To make things worse, knowing that Roman was on a part-time schedule, they booked a random match between him and Bronson Reed in Paris. Roman won, but it was a win he didn't need, and it was a loss Bronson Reed couldn't afford, and it did nothing for either man. At the next moment in storyline, telling the Usos that he didn't want to see them until Christmas was just the icing on the cake, writing him off of TV yet again. It felt like Triple H had no clear direction for Roman other than making him look foolish. Then came the final pay-per-view of 2025. Surely this would be where the seeds were planted for Roman Reigns' massive comeback and the eventual rematch with Cody for the undisputed title that he made historic. But of course not. Roman Reigns' involvement was reduced to being Brock Lesnar's equalizer in the War Games match, a gimmick match that has stripped Survivor Series as a meaningful pay-per-view with lots of great storytelling now became a gimmick. But once again, Roman Reigns lost, and once again for nothing. After the disastrous year of 2025,
Title would look so much better on my shoulder.
But that made no sense. Why would Roman Reigns ignore the inevitable title rematch with Cody Rhodes and tease going after CM Punk's title? The short answer, as always, seemed to lie in Triple H's booking, systematically sterilizing Roman Reigns and shifting the focus away from the one storyline that should still be defining his career. On the road to the 2026 Royal Rumble, reports surfaced that Roman Reigns had gone behind Triple H's back and had contacted TKO higher-ups about his future. This reportedly began with reaching out to his cousin, The Rock, a TKO board member, to discuss what he wanted out of 2026. By this point, Roman had already spent 2 years away from the #1 spot, and in that time, Triple H has failed to create anyone new who could truly break into the main event level. Roman's frustrations were understandable. Had he known things would unfold this way, he likely wouldn't have waited so long to push back for his momentum in this direction. Roman then reportedly contacted Ari Emanuel, CEO of TKO, expressing his desire to return to the top, reclaim his championship, and secure a decisive, clean victory over Cody Rhodes to set the record straight. With TKO fully aware that no new top-tier stars had been built, Roman Reigns became the new Royal Rumble winner right away, and that was a certainty. But as soon as Triple H caught wind of this, something strange happened. Cody Rhodes, a man who basically held the title for 2 years straight and who had been dominating Drew McIntyre for months, suddenly lost the World Championship on a random episode of SmackDown. Coincidence? I think not. At first, this didn't seem alarming. Cody could simply win the title back at the Royal Rumble, except in storyline, Triple H conveniently introduced a stipulation. If Cody lost, he wouldn't get a rematch clause. Drew could get endless rematches after each single clean loss, but Cody couldn't just get one. Seems pretty far-fetched, but it was the reality. As soon as that happened and Drew McIntyre was set to face Sami Zayn at the Royal Rumble, that's when the alarm bells started ringing. It felt like the rug was being pulled out from under Roman Reigns. TKO may have influenced the Royal Rumble winner, but Triple H had arranged the board in such a way that a simple face versus face Roman versus Cody match couldn't happen without undoing the story they'd spent 2 years building. So, what was Roman supposed to do with his Rumble victory? Wasted chasing the secondary title he once mocked in a promo? Well, guess what? That is exactly what happened. And it truly felt like the final nail in the coffin for Roman Reigns. In his promo with CM Punk, Roman explained in storyline that he chose Punk because he'd always disliked him. Yet for the last 2 years straight, in each and every single War Games match, CM Punk was there to help Roman out. If you didn't like him so much, why team up with him? And on the other hand, he used another example where he alleged CM Punk was mocking him when they were walking back up the ramp after their loss at War Games. But if that was truly the reason, why did Roman Reigns need to win the Royal Rumble to make that match happen? I mean, come on. Throughout January, CM Punk had been handing out title matches on Raw on a weekly basis to Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, and AJ Styles. Roman Reigns could have simply walked up one day and said, "Hey, today is my opportunity and let's go." So winning the Rumble and going after CM Punk made no sense. The only logical explanation was that Triple H needed Roman Reigns to win the Royal Rumble without using it to challenge Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Championship. This wasn't from dethroning Triple H's golden boy, Cody Rhodes. Triple H can guide Cody, to a certain extent even control him, but he cannot control Roman. Roman's influence is far larger and Triple H knows the kind of complications that brings to his authority. So instead, he's giving Roman Reigns a hollow opportunity to ensure that he can avoid giving him a real one later on, because he knows that the Tribal Chief represents something Triple H doesn't like: opposition. But with rumors of Rock versus Roman Reigns being lined up for the main event of WrestleMania 43, there may soon be no way to keep Roman Reigns out of the spotlight any longer.